we have a great opportunity to weigh in on this COP26, which was a UN climate change conference of over 100 countries talking about taking some meaningful climate action before it's too late.
Right.
And kind of I've been following that. And what's been on my mind, I think it's been on your mind. We've been doing these critical conversations for a 21st century world, is what is the impact on the people we serve, on us, and on the planet, right?
Exactly. It's our survival. And so, I've been thinking about it and kind of coming in with some thoughts from my perspective and talking with you, which has been so helpful to understand what we really need to do. And looking at the results from COPs and kind of sitting in on some of their meetings, what occurs to me is loud and clear. It is our survival. I mean, our collective worldwide survival. And, like others, I see that there's been opportunities for input and collaboration and coordination, but not enough. We're still not taking this whole climate change seriously that's impacting every member and living thing in the world today.
Yeah, I've had several experiences, mixed emotions about this. I mean, and one of the things that helped kind of frame it for me was listening to John Kerry. He kind of got featured in Time magazine, right on the cover as the U.S. envoy to climate, and there to negotiate and try to essentially retrieve credibility for the United States in the world, because for the last 4 years, for a former presidency, we weren't part of the climate change accords, and there was a lot of climate change denial. And we witnessed literally catching on fire. We witnessed storms and droughts. And I was going to just, I'll get right into this because I want to, there's a great report that I saw on NPR about what happened to, at the end, because this was the last day and they actually went a little longer to try to do that. So what I'd like to do is share my screen here. Let me go back here to I'll go back to finding that, and we'll get on the climate change deal. So here we go. So here, let me go into my screen share. And so this is a great this article that just came out at 3:30 today Eastern time on what the world leaders agreed to and what they didn't at the U.S. climate summits. That was the COP26.
Right.
And the world leaders signed off on a new climate change agreement after 2 weeks of intense negotiation in Glasgow, Scotland. While some countries committed to ambitious cuts to heat trapping and pollution, many did not agree to rein in emissions fast enough for the world to avoid the world's worst damage for climate-driven storms, heat waves, droughts, and death. They didn't say that. But there are people that really reported, like in Kenya, that if we don't do something quick, people are going to die of starvation. Okay, and at the last minute, the agreement was going to fall apart because India, which is trying to do what it can do, cannot phase out coal as quick as they need to. Okay, and they said, we can't do this. We can't reduce this thing by this goal. But we could, reduce a certain percentage a little bit later by 2060. And so rather than to have the thing fall apart, they said, okay, we'll have to push back that. But they're fighting to stay with this agreed to 100 degrees Celsius of increase. And there's already, without any changes, the rise is happening to up to 14% over the next 9 years. And that is cataclysmic in results. Okay. We're already seeing, whole, people dying in mass migration and just major things, forest fires, storms, extreme weather. And so the negotiations have been very far from easy. And the president, Elect Sharma, says each and every one of you represents stepped here in Glasgow agreeing to keep 1.5 alive. And so now some of the people are saying, well, maybe we can get up to 1.8, but that's whole thousands of groups of people that'll die. Right. And nations, this woman, Amanat Shana, the Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Technology of the Maldives, a small island nation, they'll be underwater. Okay. So what do you think? Tell me about this. What's on your mind as you kind of hear me read this news?
Right. Well, what's on my mind, Art, and folks that are listening in, is that climate change is worldwide. And while we may not see or notice the impacts of it, we do feel it in the environment with the storms, the flooding, the winds. There's many, many things that are happening in addition to not only that, but we see our foliage, our trees, our animals coming down, going away, becoming extinct. It is not enough to pay lip service to making the change and thinking that we have a lot of time. It's basically, we're 2020, and some of the promises that were made for 2030 and years beyond. It's about 70 years. Personally, I don't think we have that much time. I think that it's happening sooner and sooner. There's flooding not only in our state, but all throughout. And recently I took a train trip across the United States, and I can see the difference state by state from what I used to see when I took the same trip in 2015. We need to be awakened. Each and every one of us need to be awakened, and hopefully not about something we can't control, but things that we can control. So we have the world paying attention, the world leaders, but communities, people, we need to make a commitment to make some changes in what we do, how we think, and we need to learn where we don't have understanding about our contribution to saving this planet.
Well, I'm an optimist. If you give me a half a glass of water, I'm going to see it half full.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And what I did see by searching this is that there were two conferences going on.
Right.
There was one happening inside at the Glasgow, Convention Center, but outside there were just different people from all over the world, across generations, across genders, across the world, all talking about a people's oriented lens, okay, a people's focus to what is actually emerging out of these global communities around the planet. We got the internet, and we got people making videos, and we got people that are realizing there's some of us that don't make a connection yet. We're so busy trying to just survive, trying to deal with COVID, trying to figure out what we're going to do. We got laid off. How are we going to survive? We have all kind of health and wealth issues and stuff. And on top of this, they're saying, yeah, but if you don't focus on this, you're included, whether you know it or not. You are included. I love it, the fact that this is inclusive.
Absolutely. And I love it that you mentioned intergenerational. So it's not just, the John Kerrys of the world, that generation. It's not the next generation. And we have been reading and talking about Greta Thunberg for a while, her generation. It's across the entire spectrum of humanity across the world.
And what's really good is I just kind of, being responded, kind of a calling, is I called some of my dearest friends together who have asked to kind of watch this and weigh in on this live stream, because we got some talent in the room. You know what I'm saying?
We absolutely do.
We got some talent in the room, and every part of our business, I don't care what business, I know you're involved with insurance, but if we don't get control over this climate stuff, insurance companies are not going to be able to insure people. And we're already seeing people losing their property insurance or not being covered because of these cataclysmic natural events. And there's some small clauses, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That exclude out of this. And we got health and wellness. And so the thing that I see, which has really helped, since COVID-19 hit, since June, we're all been forced to be over Zoom. A lot of us regretting Zoom, and I just like being face to face, but we've actually had a zero footprint experience, okay? And it's forced us to come together and really, start to really say, well, what can we do, okay? Even though there's government, it's good that we're having a transition, and there are a lot of promises being made. There was supposed to be $100 billion that was supposed to be spent to these developing countries that never got spent, never got shared. That was one of the reasons, is because that commitment was right before the former president, I don't want to even mention his name, came in and said, we're out of this and climate change doesn't exist and blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Right.
But now we're in a place where it seems like there's a commitment, but they're saying, in order for us to make the commitment, because we've got the US government trying, some people saying, we don't need this. We have this major infrastructure bill that just got done. And then there's another component that has to do with climate change, okay? And climate action, okay? Absolutely. And so even though you say, well, these are just government officials and all that, we are voters. We are citizens, okay? And that we're not only citizens of the country, but we're citizens of the world, okay? Absolutely. And we have people coming to visit us from Africa who are, the developing countries have a hard time because, we've been, the rich countries have been being 70% of the polluters, of the emitters, right? 70%. So the largest emitter right now is China. The US is right after that. And then you have all the European countries there. And then the least who have contributed to emissions are developing countries who are suffering the most.
Exactly. There's that disparity issue that goes on between the haves and the have-nots, the rich and the poor, those that are socially, economically depressed or marginalized. And I know that some of us are afraid that, all the money that's talked about, it's big money, but it's got to go a long way, that it will be spent on consultants flying around and, spending the money. But really, truly, my heart tells me that we need to understand exactly what that is and make sure that the money goes to help those individuals who are marginally marginally or majorly impacted, to help them learn and be students of the environment, to make changes. There are things that we can do as individuals. We can't leave it up to the government.
No, but we can lean in, and also this climate, the thing, this climate justice, okay?
Right.
And the way that justice has happened, if you look at the history of social change in America and in the world, it's only when people come together and weigh in, okay? Exactly. And say, we'll not take this any longer. We will do this. But it's also, there's one of the things that's you and I have been talking about is the whole notion of health and wellness. Okay, I know you're an insurance person and you're always looking at healthcare plans, and I'm looking at my own health as a baby boomer and all that, and with issues and whatever. But there's this whole thing of health and wealth, and we need to look at it not only from an individual level, but we need to look at it from a political health level, from an economic health standpoint, from a cultural health standpoint, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in addition to being an insurance agent, professional insurance professional, I'm also a healthcare administrator. So I've been looking at the epidemiology of things since 2000. And I chose not to take my practice in that direction, although I am advocating for health all over, from the rich to the poor, the women, the minorities, and discovering some things I really didn't know about how our country, the United States of America, cause some of these separations. We need to change that. So if we, the people, are about the change, we need to, as you pointed out, impact those who are in opposition to the way it works, the processing, the equality of care, making some changes. Also, those in the building industry to make changes so that we can leave this planet. We can build a planet that is suitable to produce better health, because there are things that we can do even now.
Now, the other thing too is what I've learned is, even though a lot of us are just saying this is morally wrong, okay, right, from a business standpoint, what's really been happening in the investment industry is major divestment away from fossil fuels towards alternative energy, okay?
Right.
Now, we normally think of the fossil fuel companies, the Chevrons and the BPs and all of that, as just being static, okay? And I have a feeling, and I think I think John Kerry intimated that a lot of times the stalling has been for them to convert and to move into those new markets. Who has the most money? It's these oil companies, okay?
Exactly.
And so they're trying to say, okay, if this is what we got to do, because now I think one of the positive things came is everybody said we got to get out of fossil fuel, okay? Right. And Saudi Arabia is kind of, oh my goodness, but Saudi Arabia sees that because, it's not just the reserves running out, because they're not going to run out, okay? But you got social unrest. If you don't serve the people really, really well, then you have really instability in the planet. People pull out of these negotiations. They no longer want to invest. So all of them are looking at a major change, okay? Now, and also the large companies like Siemens, okay? I looked at this climate hub thing that the New York Times did. Guess who funded that? Funded that whole conversation. That conversation is Morgan Stanley, yes. Okay? Mm-hmm. And Morgan Stanley and Siemens Energy.
Right.
All right. So if we look at that, and then you you go look at Siemens Energy and you look at who's, what is their diversity? What is their equity? and I look at it as a challenge, as an opportunity. okay?
Mhm.
Because it seems like there's a legitimization factor that happens from communities of color, okay? We're kind of the litmus test,
You're right.
right?
Right.
And we're smart enough not to just do window dressing anymore. You hear what I'm saying?
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But how are we going to promote as a united front, wave the flag, be educated enough to speak the language, to make the change, to encourage the change? I mean, I feel like it's an urgency that we need to get upon this. So,
Well, you
what do think?
can't just be ethnic. You can't just be a black person that just cares about black people. You can't be a
Exactly.
woman just caring about women. You can't just be LGBT caring about LGBT. You can't be, just a US citizen, concerned about just caring about that and trying to do the old thing,
Yeah.
make America great away. America has never been great for everybody. Okay.
Right.
And so I think the calling is to the very center of our humanity. Okay.
I agree.
And I think that's a calling that says, okay, we can't be all victims of the past. We know about colonialism, we know about imperialism, we know about neocolonialism, but we got a problem.
Right. Exactly.
Houston, we got a problem here. Okay.
Sure.
And so with us coming together, with both head and heart and being really sincere about that. I mean, we got some weird bedfellows here. Okay. I mean, I really feel empowered to talk to the head financial investment advisor of Morgan Stanley. Okay.
Right.
I have the confidence to talk to whoever's dealing with, who's dealing with Siemens Energy. Okay. Who is ever dealing with the Kaiser Family Foundation. Okay. Because their impact and they're doing public television program and they're smart enough to realize that their whole business model is going to deeply be impacted by the health and wellness of the population they serve. Okay.
Exactly.
We got educators. Okay. And we got, education is in problem. So we got these racial things. We got these ageism things. I'm kind of looking at this as an opportunity to resolve them all.
Exactly. And with the population, and not only in the United States but around the world, putting it together in task forces and segmenting some of the issues, we can direct it, come together, have not just a meeting every 4 years, but monthly meetings, whatever it takes to put together the thought, the plan, and the action steps to jump on this train and urgently drive it to the environmental solution that we need.
Yeah, and it's a complex situation demanding of our expertise and our innovation in our heart. And it has to happen across generations. I was so glad I just had a meeting. I called together some of my friends and my dear daughter, who is the mother of my 2 grandchildren who have to live in this thing way after I'm gone. There's a planet that, we're leaving behind. And there's a legacy that we can do. And, even with all the things on her plate, she came to our meeting and said, let me help you. You guys need some help with social media. I know that. Okay. Right. And so everybody that I'm meeting is kind of coming today with a gift, the gift of their heart. And I think that's really going to be the thing that's going to turn this puppy around. Okay. I think that we have to do as much as we can. I can't immediately say, just turn in my car, right, which uses gas. Okay. Right. My house uses natural gas. Okay. But I can also see a time when eventually electric cars will really kind of come in And there's some things that I can do just right now that'll make a difference. Okay.
Absolutely.
And it's really full of a lot of hope. Okay. So one of the things that I'm planning and calling the people together, and I just have an African delegation just coming into Seattle right now from Cote d'Ivoire. Okay. From a young, kind of led in some way by a young African leader that I met in 2014. And we spoke about the idea that one day we're going to be able to come together as a world over communications and e-learning. And guess what? It can happen right here and right now. Okay.
We're right there. Mm-hmm.
And so, that kind of way, and building consortia, building federations, building associations, even across the planet that are authentic. And then, that can kind of move forward with really, I think it's the bright ideas that are going to resolve it, not just money, because you can waste money. Okay.
Absolutely.
But the innovative ideas will create and flow wealth. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I have to give it to John Kerry. He said, there's some things that innovation are going to create that we don't even know exist yet. I mean, he's got that hope. Here's a 76-year-old guy. He's not in the wheelchair. He's out there fighting. Okay.
Right. And
so, maybe it's my bias towards 76-year-old people, but there's some wisdom that if it didn't kill you, you benefited in some way by some kind of an insight. But there's, millennials have insight. My grandchildren have insight. My dog who's right here has insight, the natural being. And so we need to be listening to the earth and to the spirit of the earth and the spirit of humanity surging forward in this beautiful expression of humanity. That's what I want to leave this conversation with. What about you?
I'm committed. I'm telling you, I'm committed. I'm thinking about how we can light the match for those that we come in contact with to begin the study, to learn, to be aware of that we are also major contributors to this.
Yeah.
And, it starts now. I mean,
and the responsibility is not about guilt. It's about responding in faith.
Right.
Nobody, you can't blame any one person for, being, the richest person. You can't just blame them as, you don't care about anybody else. Everybody has, done what they've done, and we are all contributing to this. Okay.
Exactly.
And so we all need to honor each other's humanity and really listen to each other. And then, creative, put our heads together and try some things out, get them to work.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm with you on that, Art.
Well, thank you so much for weighing in, people. People, if you really like this, we did this as a live stream on YouTube, so please weigh in after you see this. If you didn't make the live stream, you can weigh in with to subscribe to my channel, and also to click the bell icon so you can, be notified of additional great content that's on its way. And we're actually on Zoom, and we're live streaming on YouTube. So we're going to invite you to be on our show and talk about what it is you're doing, what it is, what role that you're playing. And I got some really beautiful people who are just doing some amazing work in the community, in the health and wellness, in social media, in working with youth, mentoring youth, and getting this next generation of youth ready to step in and, and be agile. Okay. I mean, this is it. And, we're at the center of the world right here. Okay. We're in Seattle. Okay. And, Seattle has a legacy. And, there's communities that we need to serve right in Seattle. Some of our communities feel like we're like a third world nation. Okay. Because, it's not equitably distributed in terms of, health disparities across the state of Washington. And it's the same about health disparities across the United States and across the entire planet.
Mhm.
So anyway, thank you so much. Anything more you want to say?
Well, I would just encourage folks who are listening to participate. You can leave your contact information in the chat document, or you can send it either to Mr. Johnson at New World Communications, or you can text or write me at earlyinsurancesolutions@gmail.com, and we will forward. We certainly would welcome an opportunity to meet with you and put you into the plan to save our planet.
Yeah, and in the next 6 months, I'm going to be outreaching to many, many groups to do a world-class virtual conference and trade show. You know, I've had the experience of doing 4 of them just since June of 2020, 2020. And now we're ready to take it to the next level to bring more stakeholders in. And that could be a real opportunity to connect and solve a lot of things and to really showcase really important front running thing. I found out that I'm not alone, that there's some really important front running initiatives that more and more people can get behind that can change the planet, transform the planet. So thank you so much.
Thanks again, Art, for the invitation. I look forward to doing another segment and with some other folks that are going to be invited.
All right. Amen.